Call this meeting to order. Welcome to everybody to this meeting of the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission, December 11th, 2025. This is our last meeting of the year. We'll start off with a roll call agenda. Commissioner Harrison.
Present.
Commissioner Allen.
Present.
Commissioner Franks.
Present.
Commissioner Lindsay's present. Commissioner Orr.
Present.
Commissioner Mann.
Present.
Commissioner McLemore.
Present.
Commissioner Williamson.
Present.
And Alderman Peterson.
Here.
They're all present tonight. This next portion of our agenda is for citizen comments. It's open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you'd like to speak on a specific item that's on our agenda, we'll ask you to wait until that item comes up. If you just want to make just normal citizen comments about something not on the agenda, you're welcome to speak now. So we'll ask you, I'll call on you. I've got your speaker cards. If any of you still need speaker cards, if any of you haven't filled out a form and you want to speak tonight, please do that and give it to one of our staff members. So you'll fill out the speaker card, and when I call you, you'll come up to the microphone behind me and state your name and address, and then we ask you to limit your comments to 2 minutes. Are there any citizens who would like to speak to the commission at this time? Seeing none. The next item on our agenda is approval of our minutes. Consideration of approval of the October 23rd, 2025 Franklin Municipal Planning Commission minutes. Is there a motion for these?
Move for approval.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Orr and a second by Commissioner, is that you, Scott? I don't hear well. Harrison. Are there any corrections or additions to the minutes? All in favor by roll calls, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks, Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson, and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Motion passes for the approval of our minutes. The next part of our meeting is for announcements. I will lead off. I would like to call forward Vernon Girth. Vernon, would you please come? Vernon, for those of you that don't know, Vernon's the Assistant City Administrator of Community and Economic Development, a position he has served in for 18 years. He has been invaluable to us as planning commissioners. He works with us, he comes to planning commissions, he explains complex issues. We've been through some land use stuff. We've got the community plans approved this year. So tonight's Vernon's last meeting with us.
Oh.
And, so he is getting to take a well-deserved.
Roger, sorry to interrupt. Can you turn on your mic?
I'm supposed to know that. So tonight's Vernon's last meeting with us, and we want to show our appreciation. We would like to present you, Vernon, with this clock.
Oh my gosh.
In appreciation of your leadership and support to the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission from 2007 to 2025.
Wow.
Make any statements?
Speech.
Thank you, Roger. Thank you all, and thanks to everybody that's here. A lot of emotions go through one's time when then they get to this stage in their life. So I put some of my thoughts down on paper, so I make sure I can get them conveyed to you, because they're all very meaningful to me, and I hope they are to you too. But you know, for a little over 18 years, I've had the privilege of watching our community grow and become stronger because of the thoughtful decisions and the steady leadership of the many people that give of their time and expertise serving on our various boards and commissions. No more so than you all in our planning commission. Thank you for your professionalism, your partnership, your dedication in doing what's best for this community, not just for today, but for the decades ahead. I've learned a great deal from each of you, most notably the care and the passion you have in doing what's best for the community and in the decisions you make. You know as well as me that we are incredibly fortunate to work with a passionate, dedicated group of city employees who truly care about this community. Much like you, their expertise, professionalism, and integrity are unmatched. I want to thank you for including staff in matters that come before you and seeking their insights that this talented team brings. It makes a difference. I'm confident the city is in good hands. Thank you for the opportunity to serve alongside you, and I wish each of you continued success as you help guide Franklin's future. Thanks a lot.
By the time I get up, it's gonna be time to sit down. I ain't gonna get up. That's pretty close.
Emily, do you have any more announcements?
I do. Just wanted to wish you all a very happy holiday season, very Merry Christmas, and all the best in the new year. We really are grateful for your service. I can't say it better than Vernon, but as your planning staff, we'd like to extend just a joyful season of holiday time and time with your families. Just hope you have a really great time. And then also, just a reminder, use your mic button to turn it on and off, please. I know we don't typically have to do that, but let's just try to remember for tonight, and then we'll be back at the county building next month.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, the next item on our agenda is the consideration of our consent agenda. This is the consideration of approval of items that are generally considered to be non-controversial that we'll handle as one motion for all the items going forward. So the consideration of approval of items 3 through 4, 3 and 4, items 6 through 9, and items 13 through 18 are all items that are on tonight's consent agenda. Is there a motion for this?
Move for approval.
We have a motion for approval by Commissioner Allen, seconded by Commissioner Harrison. By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks, Commissioner Lindsay votes aye, Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes. So the next item we'll take tonight will be item number 5. This is for Highlands at Ladd Park PUD subdivision, final plat, section 19. This is a call on the letter of credit for performance agreement for green infrastructure improvement, and a call on the letter of credit for maintenance agreement for sewer improvement. So I'll turn it over to staff.
Thank you. The purpose of this is to provide information for Franklin Planning Commission concerning 2 outstanding improvements within Highlands at Ladd Park PUD subdivision, Section 19. 2 improvements within the section have been extended for over 8 years, and at this time, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission call on this letter of credit to allow the city to oversee the completion of these improvements. The key factors leading staff to make this recommendation include the following. The final plat for Section 19 was approved with conditions on July 23, 2015. The performance agreement was executed on June 17, 2016, and the associated letter of credit was issued June 25, 2021. In accordance with City procedures, staff has annually provided action requests to Boulevard Builders LLC, offering the option for the developer to request the release of the improvement to maintenance, request a 75% reduction in the agreement amount, or request a one-year extension. The sewer improvement was accepted and released to maintenance in December of 2022. On March the 6th, 2024, staff contact Matthew Beata regarding the required green infrastructure improvement. Mr. Beata stated that the work would occur in the spring and that he would contact the city to schedule inspection. However, no further communication was received. On August 21st, 2025, staff sent both an email and mailed a letter to Mr. Beata notifying that unless the performance agreement could be released to maintenance or the maintenance agreement or period could be released, the city would proceed with calling the letter of credit at the December 11th, 2025 FMPC meeting. To date, the applicant has not completed the remaining improvements and has not provided any response to the city's most recent notices. The surety amount for green infrastructure improvement is $83,000, and the amount for sewer improvement is $8,900. Given the age of the subdivision approval, the outstanding required improvements, the applicant's lack of response, and the city's obligation to ensure completion of public improvements, staff feels that continuing to extend the performance and maintenance agreement will not be in the best interest of the city or the residents of this subdivision. Recommendation, staff recommends that FMPC declare the performance agreement and maintenance agreement to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreements and surety for the completion of the improvements under the supervision of the city.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none, is there a motion for this item?
Move for approval.
And that is a motion to declare the performance agreement and maintenance agreement to be in default and authorize the calling of the agreements and sureties.
Correct.
So we have motion by Commissioner Orr and a second by Commissioner McLemore. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I think I say this each time we call one of these, but I just want to thank the staff for your persistence on this. I think when all the residents moved in, they expected the development to be completed in accordance with the plans that we spent months tirelessly reviewing to approve. So thank you for the persistence, and I'll proudly be supporting this.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks. Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes. Item number 10, consideration of Resolution 2025-93, a resolution amending the Madison at Franklin PUD subdivision to extend the vested rights for the property located north of Del Rio Pike and east of Brink Place, located at 801 Del Rio Pike. Start off with staff presentation.
Thank you. The request is to extend the vesting period by 36 months from expiring on March 10th of next year to March 10th of 2029 to allow the applicant to secure any necessary permits and commence site preparation. The development plan for the Madison PUD was approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen on March 10th of 2020. The plan includes the existing Madison multifamily complex and proposes the demolition of one existing building and the construction of 3 additional multifamily buildings. The proposed development increases the unit count by 64 units to a total of 254 units. The project did have 2 modification of standards, both dealing with the Class C buffer, one on the western property line, one on the eastern property line. Both were approved by BOMA unanimously. A previous 3-year vesting extension was granted in July of 2022. A site plan for the Madison was approved in December of 2023. However, no building permits have been secured for the site. The applicant is committed to constructing these additional units once financing has been secured. If the vesting period is not extended, let's take care of that really quick. The project entitlements would cease to exist and stop work orders would be issued. A new development would need to be approved and would be reviewed against the current local development standards. In reviewing the approved plan against the current city regulations, the current plan generally complies. The biggest challenge this plan may have, if required to meet current standards, is meeting the frontage requirements for new buildings. The site layout and locations of buildings and parking lots within the existing development limit the location of new buildings and parking lots. All new buildings would be required to face an internal drive, which is defined as two 10-foot drive aisles with parallel parking on each side. Reducing the type of parking in front of new buildings to parallel parking while promoting the pedestrian experience in both aesthetic and safety limits parking placement for the required spaces needed. It is not known if the same density could be met under current standards, and allowable density would be highly dependent upon a new design for the site that complies with the current ordinance. Since the site is already an existing development, the application of the frontage standards to only new buildings may require changes that are easily accommodated within a new plan. Alternatively, if development was allowed to continue under its current plans, the proposed building and parking placements would be consistent with the existing 17 other buildings currently on the site. Staff would continue to support a full access to Brink Place for better connectivity to the area, and any condition to reduce full connectivity would have to be granted by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. A modification of standards for buffer requirements would likely not be required along the entire perimeter of the development and would be limited to where new development was adjacent to existing single-family lots. So based on the current layout, the requirements for transition zones would not limit development potential. Lastly, stormwater damage or drainage issues would still need to be resolved and would need to comply with the current BMP manual. So staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve Resolution 2025-93 should they determine that the continuation of vested rights is in the best interest of the community. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item number 10? Okay, seeing none. Does anyone here represent the applicant for? Nope. Okay, is there a motion for this item?
I recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to approve Resolution 2025-93.
I'll second.
This extends the rest of it.
Extend the
Was
vesting
that your
rights. yeah.
second?
Sorry.
Okay, we have a proper motion for approval of a motion to recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen approval of the extension of vesting rights. Motion made by Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Franks. Any further discussion on this item? Yes.
I'm hoping to ask the applicant, but do we know why the extension is needed, why nothing was started? Do we have any, I mean, it says to secure necessary permits and commence site preparation, but I'm not certain what that entails.
So the site plan was approved by city staff for the development. And once it gets to that, it's usually just due to financing. So I think that's probably the last hurdle that they are trying to overcome. And they've told us just on one-on-one that they are working on that now to break ground hopefully next year.
So this extension was made at the applicant. You only requested this specifically,
Yes, correct, yes.
but it isn't here tonight. Okay.
And this was approved right before COVID, right?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Approved right before COVID, so we'll probably have some issues. And this was supposed to be an affordable housing apartment complex, so I was just wondering the same things that questions that he had. But a lot of things changed after COVID.
Yes, that's correct.
The reasons that there was delays, because this is 20.
March of 2020, so before the world shut down, yes.
I don't think I can support the extension without, speak to the applicant on why it's needed, without kind of just giving a blanket extension at this point. I'm disappointed they're not here to ask, so I won't be supporting that recommendation.
Is this project
Could you turn on your mic, please, Commissioner Franks? Thank you.
Show the project, possibly?
So if you're familiar with the area, Del Rio Pike is over here. It goes down to the Kroger at Hillsborough Pike. So this is all the existing apartment units that are there today. I believe it was approved in the 70s or the 80s. And so over here, you have the new buildings and the new parking layouts that are more towards the back of this existing site.
I got you. So it's a renovation job?
Essentially, it was, they were going to tear down one of the existing apartment buildings and then build 3 new buildings and then review or renovate the parking areas and some open space.
I mean, if we didn't grant it, what's their fallback?
If it's not granted, then the project will lose its entitlements and they'll have to start over.
Well, given the economy and the interest rates and the inflation we've had over the years, and with the hopes of valuations coming back down on affordable housing, I mean, I gotta support it.
Oh, that's my thought, exactly. So once we grant this extension, will they have, is it like a 10-year total extension after this, or would they be totally out of the whole?
They're requesting a 3-year
Right,
extension
right.
and then it's basically 10 years maximum.
Right, that's what I was asking, okay.
But if they ran up against that final deadline, they could request a future extension of that deadline too. We don't really know what the future will hold.
Right.
Any other questions, discussion? By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks. Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann. No. Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
So that motion passes. Item number 11, consideration of ordinance 2025-51, an ordinance to rezone 16.81 acres from General Office, GO District, to Regional Commerce 4, RC4 District for the property located south of Liberty Pike and east of Carruthers Parkway, located at 1211 and 1217 Liberty Pike. Staff presentation.
Yes, thank you. These 2 separate lots are currently vacant and were specifically zoned General Office District many years ago to implement a transition from intensive commercial uses along the I-65 corridor to the adjacent single-family residential uses. Envision Franklin places both lots within the regional commerce design concept. Envision Franklin's height map recommends a maximum height of 3 stories for the property at 1217 Liberty Pike to help transition away from the Liberty Pike and Carruthers Parkway intersection to the residential areas to the south. This request would not accommodate the recommendations of Envision Franklin for this property. Envision Franklin allows for 6 stories in height for 1211 Liberty Pike, assuming all the zoning requirements can be met. Envision Franklin could support the rezoning of 1211 Liberty Pike due to the guidance of the height map. Due to the request for rezoning only partially meeting the intent of Envision Franklin, staff can't support the rezoning request for 1211 and 1217 Liberty Pike. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to disapprove ordinance 2025-51. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we've got a number of of residents that have indicated an interest in speaking to this item. Lane Finch. And so we'll ask you to come up to the lectern here, and I'll call out 2 or 3 of you and get you just to come on up and be ready for your turn. So Lane, Jape Ray, and David Stewart, if the 3 of you would come up, yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Lane Finch. I am here. My husband Wesley and I have both lived in Franklin our entire life, and we recently moved to this neighborhood just to get away from the hustle and bustle of Franklin, just for the peace and quiet of this neighborhood. And part of the reason we purchased this house was because we're on a dead end right here. And I want to express my concern of rezoning this property to RC4 and the possibility that it would create of connecting that dead end to Liberty Pike, which would make our neighborhood a cut through from Liberty Pike to Highway 96, and then turn our quiet neighborhood where kids play in the street to just a road that has high traffic and is a shortcut. Not to mention the noise, the lights, everything that it would create. It would shine right onto our properties, and we could hear. That's my concern.
Hi, I'm Jay Ray. I live at 704 Langford Court, which is just south of the property in question. Couple of things that, as was in the recommendation from the city, there is a lot of land, a lot of trees and blockage from that. Any light and development to the property will destroy property values, and we think it's inconsistent with the envisioned Franklin plan. Certainly, there's an easement through the property as well from drainage. There was some previous attempt at development on the property, one of the properties in question, the main part, and has caused significant drainage issues. I know that there's going to be a plan for that, but that has continued to cost me money, to be frank, to address the drainage off the property. Clear cutting or cutting a large majority of the trees that are on the property within the, outside the easement for the power lines will affect that, and we think increase that and continue to provide additional costs for the homeowners of Breckenridge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I'm David Stewart. I live at 700 Langford Court. It is that corner property there. And really, regardless whether the zoning changes or stays, significant construction of the area is going to have the same impact. So we're going to, or at least it's going to have significant impact, concerns for property value, again, environmental, noise, light. What I did notice, though, between the two zonings is that the landscape requirement was cut in half going to the RC4, the way I read that, which even exacerbates the land problems of drainage and whatnot, because we're getting rid of more landscape under that option potentially. So I do appreciate you allowing us to speak here. County residents, it does show that you're looking out for preservation and boundaries and other folks. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, does anybody else wish? That's all the cards I have, so. Okay. Is there someone representing the applicant? Yes.
Good evening, Adam Crunk with Crunk Engineering, here representing the owner of the property. Just first like to begin by offering a brief recent history of the development of this property and these two parcels. There have been 3 separate site plan submittals over the last 15 years for office buildings that did not result in final construction for various reasons. Since the COVID-19 pandemic, there have been no offers for office development, which is the predominant limited use allowed in this GO zone property. Therefore, due to these new economic conditions since COVID, the owner wishes to rezone to a zoning designation that's technically supported by Envision Franklin, which is Regional Commerce 4. With RC4 zoning, the owner envisions the possibility of retail between Liberty Pike and the large electric lines that bisect this property. And then to the rear of the property, south of the power lines, there may be senior living, additional retail, or possibly medical office use. In our opinion, with the transitional buffer requirements that are in place under the current zoning code, the feasibility of a 4-story building with the proximity of the power lines to the rear of the property line is difficult, if not impossible. You know, the transitional buffer from the county line there would be 25 feet of undisturbed trees, another 50 feet with no building. And then the tallest building that could be placed at that 50-foot mark would be a 40-foot structure, which could only be a 3-story building. And then by that point, you're only, less than 150 feet away from the power lines. It's hard to envision a 4-story building beyond the power lines for that reason. A few years ago, we tried to rezone the property by subdividing the property with one parcel north of the electric lines, another parcel south of the electric lines. But in order to rezone, at that time, we were told we had to replat the property with that new boundary line first. We then ran into issues with the sewer department only allowing a plat if we would submit a fully engineered, approved, and bonded sewer project, proving gravity sewer was available to the property, even though we had an approved site plan in 2017 showing gravity sewer to a new building. That became a burden too high to bear for the property owner. All of these prior issues have led us to where we are today, which is a desire for a zone that meets Envision Franklin for the uses that can be developed on the property. Unfortunately, we don't have any definitive uses proposed at this time, but we're reasonably confident that a retail use along Liberty Pike is very viable, and office space, unfortunately, is not. We respectfully request a rezoning recommendation for RC4 to permit the highest and best uses for the development of this property that we believe has long sat vacant due to the limited uses currently allowed on the property. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, Adam. Is there a motion on this item?
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve by Commissioner Franks. Is there a second?
I'll second for discussion.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Franks and a second by Commissioner Harrison. I'll open the floor for discussion on the item then.
So I'll start with a question, Chair,
Yes.
if I might. So of course, staff has recommended that we disapprove this.
All right.
So in the narrative here, we say that Envision Franklin allows for 3 stories for 1217 Liberty Pike and 6 stories at 1211. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
On the height map.
On the height
Within
map, I'm sorry,
Envision
on the height
Franklin,
map.
yes.
So, but the proposal is, though.
The proposal is a request to rezone both properties to allow for up to 4 stories in height.
In height on both, which.
On both.
Virtually just from off top eliminates 1217 off top, which is only 3 stories, right?
As recommended by
As
the height
recommended,
map
right,
and
right.
Envision
So-
Franklin,
So
yes.
automatically, that would throw it out as far as Envision Franklin is concerned.
Yes, and they asked for the rezoning as a pair.
Right, all together, no distinction.
Yes,
So it's
so
all
we
together.
had to give a recommendation
Right.
on the pair.
Right, that's
as
right,
staff.
all together, right.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
But its height is only 40 feet, 41 feet. It's 3 stories.
So it's measured in stories. So the height allowed at that location per the height map in Envision Franklin is no taller than 3 stories at 1217.
1217.
At 1211,
Which of the two? is
Um,
1217?
I believe this one is 1217.
The
and
largest.
This is 1211.
Right.
And so 1211 is supportive of 6 stories in the height map and Envision Franklin because it is a transition
Exactly.
to the more dense RC6, which is this pink color right here. So that is why staff recommended disapproval based off of the collective request.
And just as my last part is, because 1217 is the largest of the two, by more, like three times as large. So that was my point. Okay, I'm done. I'll let someone else have the floor.
Other questions, comments?
Go ahead. I just don't see a reason to go against staff recommendation here. I don't know that I couldn't perhaps be persuaded at a later point, maybe with more information. Maybe seeing what the true intent or what's going to happen there. But right now, we're kind of just giving a blank slate to the open possibilities. And I know it sounds like there's some practical considerations and some intent to not do that, but I think I'd like to see that more concrete before I go against staff recommendation and Envision Franklin.
Okay. Alderman Peterson?
Just to say that so much of the, 1217 is next to county property, which is residential. And that makes it pretty tough, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'd say it's kind of a similar thing as far as that, residential right there, if we're giving kind of a blank slate. Not to say that, if I had more information, kind of what's being, the idea of what's being proposed, because there's a lot of great uses in RC4 that could be very, a good option for, lowering that density away from residential, but we don't know that. So I think it makes sense to just go with the staff.
Okay. Commissioner Harrison?
Quick question. So you're saying part of your concern for disapproval is that it would increase the height density of both parcels?
Would increase
Or
that?
would not the existing height overlay restrictions supersede the zone? Okay, so.
No, so what would happen is right now it's zoned GO, which
Right.
allows for, I believe, 3 stories in height. If we rezoned it, we consult Envision Franklin, and Envision Franklin does allow for the potential of staff support for 6 stories in height for the larger property. But when they're requesting, oh, I'm sorry, for the smaller property, excuse me. So, I'm sorry, I'm confusing everyone. Now that they're asking for RC4, what will happen is that they would be allowed 4 stories for both properties, if you were to recommend approval. No, not 6.
4 stories for both.
And that's not 4 livable stories, that's 3 stories with that height restriction.
This would be regional commerce, so it would just be for 4 stories. We have no, we don't really know what the applicant's wanting to propose at this time.
You could put a 4-story office building there.
Yes, you could.
So right now, you would be allowed to build 6 stories on the
No, sir.
first.
Right now, you're allowed to build 3 because it's zoned general office. The only reason the 6-story came into the conversation, yes, sir, it's for both. The only reason the 6-story came into the conversation is because when they asked to rezone both of those sites, we gave you the information for both sites. This Envision Franklin height map says that this property could support 6 stories. This property could only support 3. So that's the only reason the 6 stories even came into the conversation, was just to give you the information.
The way they're currently zoned
It's 3 stories.
is 6 and 3.
No, sir. The way it's currently zoned is 3 and 3. It's
Okay.
both zoned general office, 3 stories. You're getting the 6 stories from Envision Franklin, which doesn't really come into play unless they're ready to develop it in terms of a rezoning, which is why we mentioned it this evening and why we can't support it.
So this rezoning would permit 4 stories on each of the 2.
Yes, sir.
And there's, yes.
There also is a concern about the drainage out there, and was there any look
So
at
there
that?
was, with rezonings, we don't evaluate that, but I will say, I talked to a couple of residents last week about this. But if this were to get approved with a rezoning, or if it stays general office, to develop anything, they'd have to come forward with a site plan, and we would evaluate it at that time. So unfortunately, there's just no way for us to give any information on that at this time.
Okay. Any other comments, questions? So we have a motion to approve.
The rezone.
To approve the rezoning. And there's been a number of commissioners that have expressed concern for that. So we'll vote on this motion. Consider that as you vote, that this is a motion to approve. So we'll do recommend approval to Board of Mayor and Alderman. So consider that, keep that in mind as you vote for this. So by roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison,
Nay.
Commissioner Allen,
Nay.
Commissioner Franks,
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes nay, Commissioner Orr,
Nay.
Commissioner Mann,
No.
Commissioner McLemore,
No.
Commissioner Williamson,
No.
and Alderman Peterson.
No.
Okay, that motion fails. The motion to approve fails. And so what I'd like to do is entertain a motion to disapprove the request for rezoning.
I make a motion to recommend that the planning commission recommend to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to disapprove ordinance 2025-51.
I second that motion.
Okay, we have a proper motion to recommend disapproval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen by Commissioner Harrison, seconded by Commissioner Allen. By roll call again, Commissioner Harrison.
Aye.
Commissioner Allen.
Aye.
Commissioner Franks. Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr.
Aye.
Commissioner Mann.
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore.
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson.
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
Okay, that motion passes, recommending disapproval. All right. Item number 12, consideration of ordinance 2025-50, an ordinance to rezone 7.01 acres from estate residential ER district to office residential OR district for the property located south of Long Lane and west of Carruthers Road, located at 4325 Long Lane. We'll start with staff presentation.
Thank you. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property at 4325 Long Lane from estate residential to office residential. The property consists of 7.01 acres. It is the applicant's intent to utilize the existing building as office and administration space for the neighboring Refuge Center complex. Envision Franklin places this property in the regional commerce design concept, which supports a variety of uses within the design concept, with more intense uses being located closer to the Interstate 65 corridor. Envision Franklin supports the proposed rezoning as it supports the office use and requires minimal changes to the existing site. Any further development or additional changes on the property may require a new rezoning to a district that would support those changes. Staff recommends approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen of ordinance 2025-50. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody from the public wish to speak to that item?
Over here.
Okay. Yeah, come on out. Give us your name and address if you would.
It's John.
Okay.
Last name is Sering. Well, you just give it.
I'll just get
Yeah,
up here.
just
Sure. Hi, my name is John Sering. I reside at 779 Fontwell Lane in Ladd Park, approximately right there. Okay. Number one, I am probably the only one representing Ladd Park tonight because we were not notified in a timely fashion. As somebody that lives less than a quarter of a mile away from that property, we had no notification by mail that's required, I believe. The only time that we were notified was when our HOA property manager received a letter less than 2 days ago. So just want to make that apparent and for the record. So this is the first time we're hearing about this. We've had no notification, but that tract of land right now is really for residential. I am not aware of any purchase of the refuge center for that property. I'd be curious to find out if there is if there's a record of any need to or any agreement to buy that property. Any research that I did over the last day and a half shows that there is no purchase agreement there. So we're not quite sure why they're looking to have this rezoned without any really direct use of that area. If there is a change to it, the concern there is traffic and also the value of our houses in that area. I did check with several of our neighbors that are adjacent to me, and nobody was notified about this change. So they were hoping to have this pushed. I doubt if that will happen, but there are some real concerns without more information about this property and how they're going to develop it. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there someone here representing the applicant tonight?
Hi, good evening. My name is Greg Gamble, and I'm representing the property owner, Keith Baker. The property is currently zoned as state residential. The Envision Franklin policy here is regional commerce. And I provided to you, in front of you, is a sheet here that talks about, it's straight from the zoning ordinance, this is office residential. One of the things I want to point out on here is building types, 3.11.3 building types. The only building type that's permitted on this property is a house, residential house. That's the type of house. It has to have, gabled roof. It's got to look and feel like a house. That's very significant in this consideration of this rezoning. On the second page then, you also see number of buildings maximum. So it says principal building, 1 per lot, which is also significant. I've provided to you the 11 by 17 map that is in the rezoning submittal application. And what you see in the aerial photograph and on the survey is the location of a single building. This building is 4,900 square feet. It's 2 stories with a garage basement. It is served by sewer with a septic tank. It does not have City of Franklin sewer services. In order for sewer to be provided to this property, it has to come from Long Lane to the east, down the middle of the creek, which will happen someday, maybe in the future. In talking with City Water and Sewer Services, they would allow an office use to lease this house as an office, as long as there wasn't an expansion of the square footage. Because an office of 4,900 square feet actually generates less sewer demand than a single-family house with a family, with washer and dryer and dishwasher and all the things that come along with that. So as long as we're not expanding the square footage, we're not allowed to add any additional principal structures. The house is the house is the house. This is a 7-acre property. In order to subdivide this property into additional lots would require a final plat. We can't subdivide it by letter, it's too small. Subdividing by letter would be like recording 2 deeds for tracts that are 5 acres or greater. Because this is a 7-acre property, we can't do that, so we can't create another principal use, another principal building here. All he wants to do right now is, he can rent it for residential use. He'd like to be able to rent it or lease it for office space. And there's no ability to create any expansion beyond the 4,900 square feet that's here now. Several months ago, I contacted the Ladd Park HOA president, who was a lady. Now I understand that the HOA president is a man. I think there may have been some mix-up. I asked her if Ladd Park wanted a neighborhood meeting for this request, and she said no, that wouldn't be necessary. We have been contacted by multiple neighbors that are around this property after they had received the letter saying, hey, tell me what's going on. I want to know a little bit about this. My cell phone number is on every letter, so I know that those were sent out. I'm sorry that you didn't receive yours, sir. But Planning Commission, happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a motion on this item?
Staff recommendations to Long.
Second.
Commissioner Harrison. So we have a motion for approval with staff recommendations by Commissioner McLemore. A second by Commissioner Harrison. Is there any discussion?
I was concerned about the letter, but, Mr. Gilman said that he had gotten several calls on people who had gotten a letter. So I was just wanting to make sure that the letters did get out.
Yeah.
Is that requirement, is it 500 feet? It's 500 feet, right?
It's
not a quarter
500
of a mile.
feet from any border of the property, and from what we can tell on the map, the distance is just beyond that, so a letter was not sent to that property per our list.
But the signs were posted on the property, correct? Rezoning signs.
Yes.
They've been there for what, 3 months?
Okay.
Not that long. 30 days.
Other comments, questions?
Got several letters from people there, I mean, in the area.
When we do public notifications, we are required to provide the city's planning staff with an affidavit notarized stating that we sent letters to everyone on the list, the Excel list that's provided by city staff. We don't generate the list of who it's mailed to. City planning staff gives that to us. We have to provide those letters, and we send those out, and we notarize that we did send them out by the date. And I do know multiple neighbors that are right within this area that have my cell phone number that call me and said, well, what's going on? Please tell me. I was involved in the Refuge Center planner, so I've built some relationships with these immediate neighbors, and I know that they've received theirs, so.
Okay. Other questions, comments? So we have a motion for approval. By roll call vote, Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsay votes aye. Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson?
No.
No? No. Okay, that motion passes. Item number 19, consideration of Resolution 2025-89, a resolution by the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission to amend the Franklin subdivision regulations. Staff comment, staff presentation.
Thank you. The updates proposed by staff touch on 2 different topics: changes in vested rights legislation and surveyor requirements related to monumental placement. Monument placement, not monumental placement. Excuse me. Too much pasta. For the first topic, the changes proposed respond to recent changes to state law regarding the timing of vesting entitlement Preliminary plats are considered a preliminary development plan that obtains vested rights, and so Section 4.2.9 has been updated to reflect the language of state law and matches the proposed changes in the zoning ordinance. Addressing surveyor requirements related to monument placement, it was brought to staff's attention that there are some instances when the monuments identifying new property corners are not always set at the time of plat recording, and that the current language of the surveyor signature block does not reflect this condition. Staff researched the topic, specifically the rules of the Tennessee Board of Examiners for Land Surveyors Standards of Practice, and we found that the standards require that plats clearly note whether monuments were found or set, and then outline the size, material, and identification detailing for the monument, and that it regulates the making or the marking of property owners. However, nowhere in these rules does it specifically define the timing of when those pins must be set. So as discussed previously at an earlier joint conceptual workshop, the timing of pin placement is pertinent to the selling of a lot. Land is transferred by deed, and a plat is a tool that can be used as a reference when creating the legal description of a lot for a deed. But a plat is not the document which transfers ownership of land. It is the responsibility of the creator of the deed to ensure that the legal description being created matches the site conditions, including locating all monuments to be referenced. Therefore, addressing the timing of the monument placement can give those involved in a land transfer a clearer sense of what to expect when investigating site conditions. Staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve Resolution 2025-89. Thank you.
Thank you, Joey. Does anyone from the public wish to speak to this item? Seeing none. Is there a motion?
Recommend approval of Resolution 2025-89.
I second that motion.
Yep.
Yeah, I said move for approval.
Yeah, so we have a proper motion for approval by Commissioner
I don't think
Harrison
I stumbled over recommend this time. I think I just stumbled over approval.
And I second.
and a second by Commissioner Allen. Is there any further discussion on the item? By roll call, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks. Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
Aye.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
And first of all, I'd like to commend the eagle eyes of the planning commissioners who raised the question last month about the timing of setting of corner points. And that I greatly appreciate the efforts of staff to even go to the surveyor, the Board of Registration, and find out the real scoop on setting corner pins. So. Item number 20, consideration of ordinance 2025-25 as amended, an ordinance to amend as part of an annual update various chapters of the Franklin zoning ordinance text, including overlay districts, signage, uses, streetlights, performance agreements, floodplain regulations, state law changes, and to amend the zoning map, including a rezoning of 171 Hillhaven Lane and 370 Franklin Road to the Civic Institutional District and 171 Hillhaven Lane to the Historic Preservation Overlay District. Staff presentation. This is a revisit of an ordinance we considered last
Kelly
time.
shut off
We've
already
already
everything he
done-
just
So
gone along with
it contains the same
Yeah, revisit.
descriptive items, so.
This is the update again. The whole ordinance is before you, but it really is only back before you because of one amendment that was made at second reading at the BOMA last month. Any change is required by state law to have a planning commission recommendation when it comes to the zoning ordinance. So that's why this is back before you again. It is a small amendment, but it will receive a recommendation tonight and then go back to BOMA for third and final reading with another public hearing per state law at the third reading, January 13th.
So this has to do with the CAO, the Columbia Avenue Overlay Subdistrict 1, the H.G. Hill Plan Amendment that came through in September to Planning Commission. And then it came back in October so that the zoning could match the new heights as established by Envision Franklin. And at the second reading in November, which was the first time that they saw it due to the timing of the plan amendment, they made a motion to amend the amendment to allow for up to 3 stories, or allow it to be eligible for up to 3 stories with a development plan approval, meaning the process would change. If an applicant wanted to do 3 stories, it wouldn't be by right as a site plan. It would go through the development plan approval process with the PD district. And the rationale given was that this is a very important corridor. It's adjacent to National Historic Landmark property. It's very historic in nature, and that the development plan process allows more public input because there's a neighborhood meeting associated with that. There's more flexibility in the design process as it moves through, more chances for additional review. So this type of requirement has been used before from 2008 to 2019 with the Central Franklin area overlay, if some of you remember that, in downtown Franklin. That's how Harpeth Square came through as a kind of a block redevelopment. So that amendment needs a recommendation from this body tonight.
So, real quick, what is the Cliff Note version of this change?
Thank you, Scott.
It just
Just
means.
a reminder for everybody to use their mics, please.
Oh, mine's on.
Real quick, I have to recuse
It
myself.
just means that
Can you break it down by what's the difference between what they're doing, what they want us to do, and what we're doing now?
And what we approved.
I don't want her to repeat what she
Yeah.
said all over.
I said Cliff Note.
that top line is generally the amendment that you all made, plus what's in underline is what BOMA added.
Hold on.
Yeah, I have to recuse myself for this item.
Okay, all right, thank you. Now, do you have a comment?
So they're just adding additional language.
They added additional language that
Requires.
said building height could be eligible through development plan approval for the 3 stories with a 10-foot step back on that third
Where we
story.
previously approved.
Well, I thought we said that anyway.
Yes.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question? And I'm not trying to be facetious here, but it's gonna come across that way. So without this change, it would only come before, it would only come before the planning commission. Is that correct? Or would it not even come, would it just come before staff? But with this, it's gotta go before a whole lot of other people. Is that basically what this is doing?
It depends on what uses they bring forward as part of a site plan approval, whether it goes to planning commission or it just is an administrative approval. I think Emily might be checking on that. But yes, to
But
your
basically now,
statement.
the board of mayor and aldermen and other folks get to see it, so it just doesn't stop at either staff or us, is basically what's gonna happen now.
It
came
depends
from
on
them.
what the
It came from
applicant
them.
wants. If they want 2 stories, then it just would go to the planning commission if all their uses are permitted within the CC district.
If we have a lot of questions, I think we need to have public comment first, get a motion on the table, then you guys can start
Yeah.
deliberating.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right, so-
Okay, we do have someone from the public that wishes to speak to this item, so we will call on John Cooper. Thank you, John.
Good evening, I'm John Cooper with the law firm Holland and Knight in Nashville. I'm here representing H.G. Hill Realty Company. I'm here to talk about the amendment that was added by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen as discussed. It will directly and solely impact the Hill property. That's the only impact will be to my client's property. In case you don't know, H.G. Hill Realty Company, they've been a local company operating here for 130 years. They have developments all over Middle Tennessee. They've been working with planning staff for, I believe, over a year regarding a proposed mixed-use development for this site, similar to what they've done with the other Hill Centers in Middle Tennessee. This Planning Commission in September approved the amendment to the Envision Franklin plan to allow the 3 stories with a 10-foot step back.
We did.
You then, the next month, in October, approved an amendment to the Columbia Avenue overlay language in the zoning ordinance to include this language. That then went to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, and on November 11th, without any discussion with the property owner, an amendment was added by motion to require that the BOMA approve a development plan in order to get 3 stories. So as you know, in order to part of a planned development district, which is a rezoning, meaning this property would have to be rezoned in order to get 3 stories. That's a lengthy process, that's an expensive process in preparing all the plans. Had they been told a year ago that the city wanted a development plan, we probably could have and would have accommodated that. But to come in at the last minute when, we've come this far and say, oh, we want a development plan approved by BOMA, that's just not reasonable. It jeopardizes the entire project, frankly. It sounds like a very minor thing, but from a development standpoint, it is very significant. Part of the rationale that was given at the last meeting when this was discussed by BOMA was that there was a concern about what had happened across the street or another development in the area, and that what was built wasn't what BOMA thought was going to be built. And so they wanted control over that. But in our opinion, that should not impact our development, my client's development. Again, they have a 130-year history, track record of building what they say they're going to build and doing what they say they're going to do. As my client's chair and CEO, Jimmy Granberry, told the BOMA at the meeting, he said they went through all the processes required by law. They complied with planning staff requests throughout the way. They received unanimous approval at both the Board of Zoning Appeals and the Planning Commission. And now at the last minute, they're being asked to rezone their property, and they just cannot agree to that. So we would ask that you recommend to the BOMA that they remove this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Mr.
Chair,
Yes.
I'm still confused why this amendment's needed. Can staff,
Before we need to get something on the floor before,
a motion?
yeah.
I make a motion to disapprove.
And I second that motion.
And I'll third it.
Maybe no more discussion.
Well, it's really a motion to recommend
Disapprove.
that the amendment made at BOMA be rescinded, I guess is really the motion you're looking for, if that's what you want.
And that's what I second.
Okay. So what you are considering is an amendment to the zoning ordinance made at BOMA. And if the recommendation is to not go with that amendment, you would say, motion to recommend that the amendment be rescinded at BOMA. That deals with a requirement that a development plan be required if the applicant chose to go up to 3 stories.
Because here, it says staff recommends that the Franklin Municipal Planning Commission recommend approval to the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for ordinance 2020 as amended. So we're not on third and final reading, so we're not.
Only as to that section.
As
And
that
that's
section, yeah.
That's really all you've already given recommendations
Already
for everything
approved
else.
everything.
Like 2 or 3 times, yeah.
Yeah, twice, right. And again, if the board hears what you say and either makes another amendment, they can, and it'll still have to come back to you, and that's possible.
Back and forth.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, and I second what it meant.
okay.
Just to jump to a previous question that was asked, before this amendment was made and a site plan were to be submitted, it would require review by this body, not only staff, because it is in the CA01 overlay district, which requires it to come to planning commission.
Right, right.
So just to clarify, that was an earlier question.
That's it,
Okay.
stop here.
Okay, so our motion then is, what? Who's claiming the motion?
To, re-
Approve this amendment that they made.
But they would like to
To
rescind the
rescind
amendment.
The amendment made by BOMA
Yes,
with regard to a
the
development plan.
CA01 amendment, yes.
and maybe add to, if you're okay with your motion, that the rest of the zoning ordinance as amended remain.
Remain.
Right, just so the record's clear that we're not talking really about anything else but
It's just
this.
the CA01 amendment. Everything else is fine.
Let me say to you, there were some people on the Board of Mayor and Alderman who said they were in charge of zoning.
I said, do they want to be the planning commission? I'm not
No,
trying to
I'm
be, but
just-
I mean, come on now.
No, I'm just saying to
We
you,
can have a meeting.
there were some people there that just said that the Board of Mayor and Alderman was in charge of zoning.
Do they need to read the duties of the planning commission and the
No,
duties of the board of mayor and alderman? Because I've done both.
I know.
Right.
They're not in charge of zoning. They're not in charge of Division Franklin either.
The zoning ordinance, though, is technically approved by the Board of Mayor and Alderman.
That's right, they get final
They
decision.
approve it, but there's certain parts that we have certain duties and certain responsibilities. You guys have they have a huge budget they need to get under control.
All right, that's another discussion. We're going to
Okay.
vote on this
That's
one.
another discussion.
Do we have a motion we can work with?
Do you want to read it back, or do you feel good?
Read it.
What if we talked about, an amendment, a motion that would require that the amendment made at BOMA be rescinded, that deals with the requirement for development for a development plan.
And that the rest of the,
And the rest of the ordinance remains intact.
I have a comment.
To add to that, I just think it's unfair to treat the applicant the way he followed all the rules for over a year to bring this thing to the planning commission, meet all the regulation guidelines, to get staff recommendation of approval.
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Did I say that right?
Mr. Chair.
Clean it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to support this motion for the same reason. I'm going to stay out of the control between BOMA and FMPC, but I think it's also fair that the applicant went through this process, and I feel like to require them to go back through additional steps at the end of the process that were, not clear on the onset, I think is not the intent of the land development process.
Okay, so the motion would be a motion to recommend that the amendment made at BOMA be rescinded that deals with the requirement for producing a development plan, period. The rest of the ordinance remains intact. And I'll claim that motion. So is there a second?
He's already got it.
Have it.
He's already got
Okay,
it.
is that the way?
Jimmy and I, we've got it.
Okay,
Yeah, you don't have to
so
do
that was Jimmy's motion?
We got it.
Okay.
I think you had another,
They called me.
you had another hand. I think Mike had his hand up.
No, I mean, there was ample time for anybody else from BOMA that doesn't sit on the planning commission to come and discuss this very fact if they were that concerned. So I have no problem in asking this requirement to be rescinded.
And then we allowed the same thing down the road at another development,
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
at the margin district that's
Yes.
is right there, and this is
It
further
was
up, and it's
approved
the
by
very
select-
same thing. So, yeah.
Okay. So we've got a proper motion.
Excuse me, could I say, the CAO one on the what was it, the west side specifically got approved by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen.
Yes, it did.
Yes, so the Margin District property and those properties that were acquired for that project did go through the same process as the HG Hill site
Right.
has, with they each requested an Envision Franklin amendment.
Right.
Which this commission approved in both instances. And then we proceeded forward with an amendment to the zoning ordinance to match that. That was approved in the case of the Margin District. So that's the history.
The same thing, yeah, same thing.
Okay. So we have a proper motion and second by Commissioner Allen. The main motion, the primary motion was made by Commissioner Franks, wasn't it? Okay. All right. Any further discussion? Hearing none. By roll call, Commissioner Harrison,
Aye.
Commissioner Allen,
Aye.
Commissioner Franks.
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Orr,
Aye.
Commissioner Mann,
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore,
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson,
She's
recused.
Recused, uh-huh.
and Alderman Peterson.
Yes.
The motion passes unanimously. Is there any other business before the Planning Commission tonight? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Is that Harrison? Commissioner Harrison?
Aye.
Commissioner Allen?
Aye.
Commissioner Franks?
Aye.
Commissioner Lindsey votes aye. Commissioner Orr?
Aye.
Commissioner Mann?
Yes.
Commissioner McLemore?
Aye.
Commissioner Williamson?
Aye.
And Alderman Peterson?
Yes.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.
I hate to